Welcome into the Non-League Goalmouth. I'm Matt Badcock, and this week I'm joined by John Couch and Mark Carruthers. Chaps, how are we?
How are we? Okay, yeah, good, thanks.
All good, plodding on.
It's September. We're recording a little bit earlier in the week than normal, but it's September. I was at a game last night and sort of feel that slight chill coming in at the end of the game, waiting for the managers afterwards.
Yeah, kids are back at school, peace and quiet. It's lovely.
So I've picked up some sort of back to school lurgy from mine already, even though they've been back a day. So yeah, the season's properly up and running. Mark, where were you last night?
I was at South Shields against Radcliffe. 3-0 win for South Shields. Doesn't tell the story of the game though, which sounds ridiculous given that it looks like a comfortable win, but it really wasn't. I wouldn't say Radcliffe deserved to win the game, but they certainly didn't deserve to lose by 3 goals, and had a spell when it was 1-0 at the start of the second half where they had 3 or 4 good chances, possibly even got a goal back, but it wasn't given for. It looked as if Danny Greenfield had scored a shot that creeped across the line, but wasn't given. Then Los Maynard got sent off, and after that it was kind of about South Shields just going on to win the game. So, but they have started very well. South Shields, as I thought they would, maybe not as well as they have, but yeah, it's been a really good start for Ian Watson and Carl Magnay.
Sign of a good side, though, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah, I guess so. It's really interesting because I spoke to Ian Watson after the game at length, and sort of I've known Ian for over a decade now, and I know what his standards are like. So when I said to him as my first question, you've got a clean sheet, you're top of the league, you're 7 unbeaten, won 6 of those. You've won 3-0 at home, your goalkeeper's kept a clean sheet. But I get the feeling you're not happy, and he just kind of went off on one about, we have to be better, we've got to be better in key stages of games, we've got to control games better. And then said, but the standards that I'm trying to hit. Had a chat with a couple of his players after the game, and a couple were sort of surprised at the reaction, not in a bad way, but just surprised at the, we've just come off the pitch with a 3-0 win and they were being asked for more. But then did say that they loved that sort of attitude towards games. So, yeah, a really interesting game, but they are absolutely flying at the moment.
Yeah, I think I guess kind of out of the manager's sort of handbook, isn't it? At this time of the year, if you've had a good start, you've got to come out and say, "I'm not happy. We're not good enough. This isn't good." And sort of like pick holes in things.
Mind games.
Yeah, I texted a manager earlier who started well, and he just came out and said early doors. So it's I think it's probably one of those, isn't it, where you try not to get too carried away with the start, but people like on the outside, we all sort of do when a team starts so well, and then it's the manager trying to bring everybody back down, I guess. But great result. Radcliffe had such a good win on Saturday against Oxford City away, didn't they? As well, they went and whacked them down there. So it was a good win for Shields last night from that point of view as well.
Yeah, and you know what, Radcliffe were really good. I've got to be honest, I thought they were, again, I'll say it again, the 3-0 was really harsh on them. I had a good chat with Jono after the game, and the first thing I said to him was that he didn't deserve to lose by that sort of level. They had good chances in the first half, really good chances in the second half. I just thought that they played really well. They look like a different side this year. There's a really strong sort of structure there. There's an identity there. The usual, the work rate and intensity that you get from teams that, Jono and Bernard coach. You could see all of that there. So, and I think, did I see they racked up, was it a 600th win of their career last week?
I think it was their 400th win. Yeah, I think it's their 400th.
Yeah, that's it. That was
an amazing achievement. I mean, I remember watching their side at Ramsbottom. They came up here to Blyth Spartans and beat them in the FA Trophy, and all the hallmarks of that side were very much in evidence last night. So, yeah, but going back to Shields, I think I said in the season preview podcast that I thought they would be ones to watch in the division purely because of Ian Watson going in there, and I've seen nothing to suggest otherwise in the last 2 times I've seen them.
Yeah, definitely a good start. And like I say, Jono and Bernard, they've been around for such a long time. You starting with Rami and sort of in their mid-20s when they took that on, and they've sort of done so much in the sort of time since, and they're always they'd be good ones to get on here for sure, because they're a good chat to say the least. They say it how it is, no BS, and obviously last night would have hurt them, but they're sort of realistic about what they're trying to do at Radcliffe as well. I think obviously went and won promotion 2 years ago, didn't they, and stayed up last year. And I think I spoke to John in the summer. He said that's one of his best achievements in the game, and considering what they have achieved is some statement. But yeah, there seemed to be goals going in all over the place last night, didn't there? It was definitely a one for strikers, and talking about Oxford City, and obviously their defeat to Radcliffe, and they've went and beat Alfreton 5-0 last night, and which is some way to bounce back. You had a 3-3 at Worksop Spennymoor, 3-2 Telford. It was an interesting night. Do you kind of feel like we get to this sort of part of the year, and it does, from now it kind of does start settling down a little bit, sort of game, team wise, and because the first sort of opening weeks can be a bit hectic, can't they? You're never quite sure what you're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, I can only give the example of my local team, Kidderminster. They haven't really settled yet, to be honest. They even though they're unbeaten start, manager Ad Murray wasn't very happy at all after the game against Oxford City, and since then they had back-to-back away games at Curzon, Ashton, and Kings Lynn, who have started really well, and went and beat them both 1-0 away. And I think that shows a lot about them and about their mentality. And slowly but surely, it's starting to click there. And I think that's worrying for the rest of the division. And great for Adam Murray. I mean, what a start for him. Although he's another one of them sort of Ian Watson type managers who will never be happy until the job's done. But I think even he would have tipped his cap to last night.
Yeah, it did feel like it's a bit early for statement wins for sure. I'm not saying that, but it did feel like one of those. It was like, oh, that is to go to Kings Lynn, who, like say, been flying and had a good win at the weekend as well, didn't they? And sort of been knocking goals in all over the place as well. So that was to go and keep a clean sheet there and win that is one of those sort of really pleasing ones, I guess, from a manager's point of view.
Curzon as well. I mean, Curzon's a horrible place to go. And, on a Saturday afternoon, Curzon have been punching above their weight in that division for so long. Very close to getting the playoffs last year, and to go there and win 1-0 as well. Another big statement win, should we say? Yeah,
well, they made a statement win last night against Chorley, beating them. Curzon beat Chorley.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
Which again, is a great result from from bouncing back from that kiddie one. But you're looking at it still feels early, and teams are still trying to get going. You're looking at Chester, obviously got their draw with Fylde last night. We're a few minutes away from almost beating Fylde, and had to settle for a 2-2 on the night. But it does kind of feel like it's settling down a little bit from now, really, once you start getting into September. And
cream's rising to the top, I think.
I think when you look at the schedule, though, over the first sort of 3-4 weeks of the season, it's been that crazy. That it kind of tends to be the teams that have got the clubs that have got the biggest squads can cope with it. And then it sort of settles down when we do start going more sort of Saturday instead of Saturday, Tuesday, or in some cases Wednesday, Saturday, Monday, Tuesday. You know what I mean? Bank holiday weekend. Which we discussed, obviously, didn't we, before? But the schedule in the first month. I mean, I think I worked it out. Whitley Bay have played 10 games in the first month of the season, which is just crazy. But so it's. I think you're right. I mean, obviously the National Cup competitions will kick in fully this weekend with the trophy starts, doesn't it? On Saturday, Friday, and Saturday. So I think things will start to settle down. We'll probably see squads will start to settle down as well. I think you're right. What you said before, John, that the cream will start rising to the top over the coming weeks and months.
Yeah, it's definitely a bonkers opening. Always is a bonkers opening to the year, and then you'll always get now, like say with the trophy in the FA Cup, you'll kind of get into sort of late October, even November, and some Step 4 clubs have only played sort of 5 or 6 games. And I remember Cray Valley a couple of years ago when they had their great FA Cup run and got to the first round. I think. I can't remember if it was October or November, sort of ringing Steve Kim and think you've only played 5 league games here, and it is managing the sort of the load and the schedule. I think at all levels is something probably we don't always. It's quite easy to forget probably. That sort of kind of that quick turnaround, and you say there's National League having splitting their midweek fixtures these days over Tuesday and Wednesday, which confused the life out of me when I went to Southend York the other week and woke up the next day thinking it was Wednesday and it was actually Thursday. But it is, it's been interesting to see those games, how that sort of dynamic is going to change this year and how clubs can sort of use that to their advantage if they're having long trips on them in the midweek or on the following Saturday and stuff like that. But yeah, some eye-catching National League results last night as well. Any that sort of stood out to you boys? Probably maybe Wealdstone. End.
Yeah, fantastic result for Wealdstone. So as we was had a great start and we brought Sam Cox on and the old hoodoo returned to them, didn't they? But no, good to see them back up and running last night. What a great win that was against the Southend team who were flying. So well done to them. And must have say also the Eastleigh and Scunthorpe game. Best of wishes to Archie Harris and the Scunthorpe lad Bellahuan, I think his name is. Awful incident there, and fingers crossed. I think they're both on the mend. But horrible incident, and glad they're both okay.
Yeah, I think that came quite late on in the game, didn't it? And obviously the game was abandoned because it sort of shows how sort of serious it was. Sort of headed. It seems to be a clash of. I've not actually seen anything, but sort of like a clash of heads. And I think sometimes, we go to games and you don't ever kind of really think about those sort of things happening. But when it does, that's when you realise how good the sort of medical professionals at these games are, how important, how vital they are, and they come on and make these situations. They know exactly how to deal with them. I mean,
unsung heroes, aren't they? All of them.
100%. It's kind of one of those jobs, that goes totally unnoticed until something very, very serious is happening, and then you wouldn't want anybody else there because they know what they're doing. I remember a few years ago seeing, I think it was Anthony Malbon at Kidderminster had a bang to the head, and they had to land a helicopter on the pitch and things like that to airlift him away. And it is quite scary when you're in a stadium. I'm sure you boys have sort of seen those kind of incidents as well.
Yeah, there's few leg breaks over the years, and that sound you can still hear it today. It's
I've heard the sound. I've sat from the other end of a ground once where you sort of heard someone's leg break. It's absolutely horrible, and it shows what kind of players are putting themselves through. And we kind of again probably guilty of not always remembering and thinking about it, that you can be a sort of a bad challenge away or innocuous challenge away from your season and careers sort of taking a very different turn. So thankfully those lads they were all right. Obviously it was 1-1 at the time, wasn't it? A couple of late goals in there as well.
100th minute, I think it was very, very late on. I
think so. It'd be interesting what the decision's made. I'm sure that will come in time. But Forest Green obviously going well. Went behind to Morcambe, but came back at 1-3-1. Difficult for Morcambe at the moment. The big, the big fanfare of coming back, and they managed to get that late win against Altrincham. But it's not going to be again. The catch-up's not easy to make really in such a short space of time, and they're bringing in lots of players, and they're kind of coming in when everybody else is already in the race running it off, and to kind of playing a bit of catch-up's not the easiest.
Yeah, and it's always really interesting when this sort of thing happens with a club, because you go from being relieved that you've got a club and that you can go to games and see your club playing. When does that tipping point come when it's about, right, we need to start winning now? Because there is always that initial relief, and I remember a couple of clubs up here where it's kind of happened, like the Gateshead situation was, oh God, at least we've got a club now, and then all of a sudden you go into games and it's competitive, and you kind of have that movement away from it. I'm not sure Morecambe, well, maybe internally they are very much in that winning mode, or want to be in that winning mode now, but it's a really fascinating aspect of a club coming back from the brink, because they were close, weren't they? We know how close they were. I think we spoke on here in the kind of final weeks of it. I think it was when Simo was on, wasn't it? And we were saying that, this could be the last sort of week of Morecambe Football Club.
I think we all kind of agree that there was kind of we'd be more surprised at this outcome that's actually happened than the other outcome. I'm amazed they actually managed to get through it. To be honest, I just couldn't see how it was going to happen.
Too. And the appointment that they made's certainly an interesting one. They've made some very good signings. A couple of players that I've known from sort of in and around the northeast as well. People like Mo Sangare has gone in there, former Newcastle youngster. So it's going to be interesting. There is going to be a settling down period, I think. Obviously, we're kind of a new look squad put together. It's not going to gel straight away, but fingers crossed they can get back to winning ways and really kick on again.
Yeah, scored a cracking goal last night as well, by the way. Gwion Edwards, 25 yards. Gwion, who I know from the old Ipswich days, and wow, he's still got it. What a goal that was.
I saw a good goal last night. Beck Ray Inoru for Tamworth. He set up the first one, and then the second was a great. If you get a chance to see it, he sort of dances past. I don't think Steve Pitt, the Braintree manager, was overly chuffed at the defending from his defenders, but still he's gone past a few, burst into the box and sort of chopped back inside somebody and finished really well. And it was funny, wasn't it, Couch? I sent you a message before the game, kind of sort of thinking, is this definitely the Beck Ray Inoru who, as I was thinking, had done so well in that Spurs game, and I was sort of almost surprised to see him still there.
He was unreal against Spurs. He was great against Spurs, and all the talk among the press was not will he get a move on the back of this, was when will he get a move on the back and where will he go? But Tamworth managed to keep hold of him, and what a talented player he is. Just little winger, very very diminutive, but very very effective as well, and. It looks like he started this season well too.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the, right from the off, kind of, you could tell that he was going to have a big impact on the game. He really sort of fancied it, and he set up the first goal for Manny Duku as well in the first half. And Braintree were much better after the break. I think Steve Pitt kind of changed things around, and they at the end as well, they were really sort of kind of loading it on Tamworth, and Hayden Hollis made some brilliant sort of clearances and headers out and getting his foot on whipped balls across the box to sort of turn them behind, but they really dug in. That's the thing with Andy Peakes' side. They sort of really not many people are going to outwork them. They work their
good win for them. I think they needed that.
Yeah, it was a good win. Obviously, they lost a few players in the summer. Obviously, Dan Creedy going to Solihull was their big blow, but Beck Ray, obviously, Inuru's come from lower level from Barwell before, and they had Harvey Sayer there last night as well. He's someone they brought in this summer from Lowestoft, and he looked really good as well, stepping up from Lowestoft. And sort of think, how have you got someone from out on the coast of Suffolk into Tamworth? That shows this kind of sort of the way they look, the opportunities that Andy Peakes is happy to give players to kind of step up. And he looked really good last night as well. And but there's a Braintree boy, Kamara, on the right wing. He's on. I think they got him on. He came on a trial. He left Birmingham, but his feet were unbelievable. He took a ball off the keeper's sort of kick out, just pulled that down beautifully, and just one touch. And some of the ways his trickery, and I think Steve Pitt's kind of saying he needs that more consistency, as it often is with young players when you get into that final third, into those danger areas, to really sort of put in the right ball. But he looked quite a talent as well. That's what I enjoy at this sort of part of the season as well. You really sort of seeing players who kind of really thrive and make the most of their opportunities, and seeing that all through the league. I've seen people raving about Alfie Massey at Wealdstone as well, and he's on loan from Millwall. And it's great when you're seeing these sort of young players flying and doing well. And that was one we were going to touch on as well, Mark. So going back to South Shield, like Kedwin Scott, he's been flying there as well, hasn't he?
Not if you ask him. Had a good.
He's going up South Shield. There's nobody happy up there. They're not happy to be.
They're happy.
It's like losing some games. God dear.
Well, I was going to say earlier on before we moved on, when I spoke to Jono, I sort of said about what Ian Watson's response to the game was, and I can't tell you what his reply was, but it was 2 words. Put it that way. I mean, look, Kedwin has obviously had a tricky few years. He's had a bad injury when he was at Notts County, and obviously spoke out about sort of mental health issues that he'd had. And I just get the feeling from speaking to him last night, and obviously I knew Kedwin when he was at Hebburn, and kind of that journey went on with them. There's a very different Kedwin Scott now. It's a very mature Kedwin Scott who looks as if he's grown up as a player and a person. And I think he's had an unbelievable start since he's gone in there. I think his goals to game ratio is pretty much 1-1, if not even possibly slightly better than that. But we know what he can do. We've seen it at a high level. I think it's an unbelievable signing for South Shields. It's one I don't think would have happened without Ian Watson's presence. Obviously, worked with him at Carlisle and at Gateshead. So I think, we'll see once he does get to the level of fitness and the level of form that he thinks is acceptable, if that does exist, then I think he'll be one of the top goal scorers in that division. And when you consider, they have Paul Blackett in that squad as well, who could go down as the best striker, certainly one of the top 5 in the division. It's a very potent strike force they've got all of a sudden.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It's as we always, as everybody knows, goals win the games, don't they? And if you've got once a player can get in form and feels like they're in the groove, there's can often be no stopping them. And those little wins as well can be the ones that sort of pick you up and sort of kind of bouncing back into the National League. Look at Yeovil last night beating Solihull. That could be an important win for them. I've seen Mark Cooper's moved on and be looking for a new manager. I'm sure there's plenty there last night watching that with intrigue, because that'd be a club that a lot of managers want to get hold of. But that an important win for them. But not
tricky
great
start for Solihull, isn't it? Very tricky start for Solihull.
Yeah, I think they've got Boston on Saturday as well. So
big game.
If Boston kind of go and get some points from there, that will be interesting for sure. But in the National League South as well, it's been again, goals flying in all over the place. Goals results you don't necessarily expect to see. But Hornchurch going well at the minute, beating Dorking last night, which is feels like a sort of a signal of their intent this year as well to get a late winner, 10 minutes to go and get those 3 points there and be top of that very early table.
Top of the league, yeah.
Yeah, it's I think they're going to Ebbsfleet on Saturday. Obviously, Darryl McMahon's former club, and they've sort of had a decent enough start. They drew last night with Hemel, and then you've got Dagenham sort of coming back from behind to nick a point with 10 men against Dover, and 2-2. Maidenhead knocking 4 past Bath. It's
Maidenhead, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a good one. And Western-super-Mare started really well as well, haven't they? And they beat Maidstone last night 3-0, which is
win, yeah.
Yeah, so interesting as we sort of kind of roll into the early part of September and see where we are. But obviously, as you say, Mark, the FA Trophy is everyone who hasn't, the Step 4 clubs who have been knocked out, obviously will be putting their feet up this weekend. But it's everybody in from now. The Vase is underway, and that's one we'll sort of follow with real interest. But the FA Cup coming up next week is again going to be the big one. Step 2 and 3 clubs in. Any sort of draws that stand out for you chaps? It's certainly throwing up some interesting ties, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, I was at Newcastle Blue Stars win against Heaton Stannington on Saturday, which wouldn't have been the biggest surprise in the round, but it was a Step 5 side beating a Step 4 side, and the reward is Marine at home, so that could be a really interesting tie in the second qualified round. The other one is to Step 4 v Step 3 is Dunstan against Stocksbridge, which is a rerun of last season's East Division playoff final. And I think the final one, and obviously I apologise for keeping North East here, but Spennymoor going to West Auckland, a pretty short trip. I think it's 7 miles between the two of them. That'll be a massive test for a largely new look West Auckland side. Spenny, I think, obviously getting the trophy final last year, maybe felt they didn't do themselves justice at Wembley. I think that they would probably agree to that. But what Spenny have got in that squad. We know what the likes of Rob Ramshaw, Glenn Taylor, what these players can do. They've got a number of younger players who've come into the squad now as well. People like Mackenzie Heaney, who did so well at South Shields. So that'll be a really interesting tie, seeing Spenny go to West Auckland. But I think I'll probably be a Blue Star against Marine.
Yeah, it's great for their, they've been on a real rise in the last few years, well, Blue Star. I mean, we sort of did a piece on them probably 2 or 3 years ago now, kind of talking about that kind of coming up and their sort of ambitions, and it's kind of coming to fruition as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so I've sort of got a bit of a kind of personal link with Blue Star because without going too much into geography, I'm from the west end of Newcastle, and that area hasn't really had a Northern League team since I think about the 40s. So when Steve Best, the owner, spoke about this is his ambitions, this is what he wants to do, where he wants to take the club, how he wants to do it, and he's taken basically a small patch of land beside a leisure centre, turned into a lovely little stadium. Obviously put money into the team as well. I'm not going to say all these decisions have gone down really well. They haven't. They've changed managers quite a few times. But he's got Mark Nash in there now and Anthony Woodhouse, who did such a good job at Whitley Bay and North Shields. They've got a horrendous injury list at the moment as well. Key players out left, right and centre. So they're playing a lot of young players who Mark knows from his time within sort of the college system up here. But it's just great to see the area. I mean, there was 800 there on Saturday. The playoff final last year against Blythe Town, I think there was 2,300, I think it was roughly. So, the area needs to continue getting behind Blue Star, because that area, I mean, where I live now is kind of the other end of Newcastle. And there's loads of clubs in and around where I live, the likes of Heaton Stand, Newcastle Benfield, North Shields isn't too far away, Whitley Bay isn't. So, Newcastle Benfield just down the road. So that part of Newcastle, in terms of non-league football, really needs something tangible and something to go and get behind. And I really think, and I mean this, if that area does get behind Newcastle Blue Star, there's no reason why they couldn't follow the likes of South Shields that far up the pyramid if it was done properly with the right support. Because it's a big area, it really is, with a lot of little villages in and around it. But that can be the hub for that part of the west end of the city.
Tell me, Mark, just quickly, excuse my ignorance, obviously being from out of town, but the Blue Star, is that anything to do with Newcastle Brown Ale?
Yeah, so the Blue Star was on the logo. It was the Newcastle Brewery's logo, who used to brew brown ale. So that was always on the labels. But the original Newcastle Blue Star, they were just Blue Star, weren't they? They were kind of the brewery's team, like a works team almost. They were financed by the breweries. Now, this new Newcastle Blue Star doesn't really have a link to that old Blue Star. It's not like they've reformed. It's basically a club that will kind of renamed Newcastle Blue Star, and they've gone along that way. But it is an iconic badge, with Blue Star. I mean, as everyone knows, I was brought up a Newcastle fan, and seeing that on the front of Newcastle United kits was commonplace for
Shearer, Ferdinand, yeah,
and that was the Blue Star, the Brown Ale logo, like literally the label that was on the bottles. But even before that, when Keegan played in the 80s, it was literally just the Blue Star with the silhouette of the Tyne Bridge and such like. So, there's a lot going in Blue Star's favour. They just need that area to get behind them, and if they can and get over the line in terms of promotion, then I really think they can progress into the Northern Premier League Premier and even the National League North, because it's a big area.
Yeah, that's been interesting, isn't it, over the last sort of few years, since I've been at the paper since 2009. Obviously, there's that kind of the Northern League dominance of the Vars. Obviously, Whitley Bay kind of famously the sort of the hat trick and of their four wins. But since clubs have kind of been going up from the Northern League into Step 4, we've seen a lot kind of go and show, and then go again. It kind of shows that there was always this kind of, hotbed of football and all that kind of thing, but it's kind of proven that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've got to be honest, as someone who looks across the Northeast non-league scene rather than just the Northern League, this is something that should have happened years ago. There should have been, when clubs weren't taking promotion, I got it, understood why there was the travel and the costs and all that. But I just thought what we're seeing now is, Spenny, South Shields, Darlington are in the National League North. You've got 3 clubs in the Northern Premier League Premier Division. You've got, I think it's 9 now in the East Division. Now, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that this time next year, there could be half of the East Division is Northeast based, which is the way it should be. So we are kind of playing catch up with clubs from the Northwest, with clubs from Yorkshire, trying to get sort of more of a footprint in the higher levels of the non-league game. So hopefully that continues over the next few years. inevitably there will be a time when a club does go back down. I know we had Shildon relegated a couple of years ago, but they've learnt lessons from their time in Step 4. North Shields were relegated because of ground grading issues, which was really unfortunate. But again, they're sort of slowly building their way back. So it's good. It's a really interesting period for the area, for the non-league scene in the area, and I think there's more exciting times to come.
Yeah, I think the FA bringing in that mandatory sort of promotion has really sort of helped that. They've always kind of, quite a few years ago, always really big on the flow of the pyramid. You need that kind of flow because it was, there's a little bit of a bottleneck up there. There's clubs who were maybe who wanted to progress, couldn't always because of the way the rules and the regs were and all that sort of thing. So it has certainly made it interesting. And see Whitley Bay, good knocking goals in all over the place, aren't they? And their Vars win as well.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, I wrote that piece last week where I spoke about their goal scoring exploits, and they hadn't failed to score fewer than 3 goals in a game, I think it was, in a league game until 24 hours before that article went into publication, when they won 1-0 at home.
At least they won. It could have been a lot worse. I remember interviewing a player years ago who talked about how he'd sort of sorted out his disciplinary record and he wasn't getting sent off anymore, and that's what was behind his good form. And on that Saturday that they played, I spoke to him in the week. The Saturday he got sent off before the piece. And I think we had to pull it out. The non-league paper curse is a real.
Had a few of them over the years, haven't we?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing.
So last Tuesday night, I went to watch Whitley and they played Thornaby at home, and it was just attack after attack after attack. And it was like, they looked solid defensively, but they didn't really have to do a lot of defending because it was just get the ball forward, not like lump it forward. They're playing good football, but just everyone get forward. The fullbacks were pressing on. Everyone midfield was pressing on. It was so good to see. And the play was such a freedom. I mean, they've got a couple of young lads up front. Leighton Campbell, who is the son of John Campbell, former FA Vars finalist with West Auckland Town, played for Torquay and Darlington. I think he's on, I might be wrong here, possibly 12 goals for the season already, which is a great return for a young lad finding his way at that level. Mackenzie Sharp, his strike partner, has been in great form, but they're just such a good side. And I laughed because I purposely sat as close to the dugout as I could, and it was like players were being, I'm trying to get, I'll put this, told strongly not to pass the ball backwards. It was all about going forward and putting Thornaby under pressure. And I just thought, it's when we see a lot of teams playing with fear in these days, it's quite nice to see a team just going for it and having a right goal.
Yeah.
How many goals do you think Paul Chow would get in that team now?
It's really funny you say that. It's really funny you say that, because one of the questions I asked Jay Bates after the game was, Mackenzie Sharp and Leighton have got, I think it's 21 goals between them already this season. And I said, you've had some famous strike partnerships at Whitley Bay in the past. Like, how far could this one go? Because obviously I had Lee Kerr as well, who was he got called Kachow, didn't they? That was the
what did they call? Because they're both shaven head.
Yeah.
I thought they had a few different nicknames, didn't they? But
the Kachow one was one that kind of stuck with me for some reason. But I mean, Chowie's an absolute legend up here in terms of non-league football, and Lee pretty much in the same vein, and very nearly got to move to Newcastle United as well. Went on trial with Newcastle under Glenn Roeder, I think it was. But yeah, in terms of the current strike partnership, there's a lot of interest in them from National League North clubs as well. There was a few managers there from higher up the non-league food chain, so it'll be interesting to see how things go in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I always remember Chow, obviously, his rapid goal at record-breaking setting at the time, goal at Wembley, wasn't it? Was it 90? I can remember it was around 19 or 20 seconds, 21.
It was, I think it was 21, but
I think it's 21, wasn't it? Yeah.
I got told an interesting story. Actually, I say got told. It was him that told me where he was coming out of training with, I want to say, Hebben on the night that Christian Eriksen scored at Wembley for Tottenham when Tottenham played their league games against, it might be Man United. I can't remember who it was exactly, but he scored after about 14 seconds. And Chow said the goal must have just gone in as he was leaving training. And he said, my phone has never blown up the way it did. But it was just people going, "Now you haven't got the record anymore, have you?" Like,
Yeah.
who needs enemies when you got friends like that?
Can you imagine that you've scored? You imagine scoring at Wembley at that sort of time. He even had his name inside Wembley, didn't on the wall, sort of like as a thing. And then when someone breaks it, you get all these people straight onto you. But that's always a memory of him.
For Chelsea, didn't he? In the cup final. Did Mateo?
No, it was quicker than Di Matteo's, and that was about.
It was quicker than Di Matteo's.
Gundogan's did it first.
That was at the old Wembley, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the old Wembley. Yeah.
Oh, was it? Okay. Yeah.
And then did Gundogan beat it for Man City in that cup final as well? Did he beat Eriksen's one as well?
I think so, yeah. But it was. I feel like there's another one, an Everton player that we've missed. I'm sure an Everton player scored a quick one at Wembley, but then I think Chowie maybe beat it, possibly. I could be wrong.
Well, he was in a major final as well, so
it was.
Rans was as well. But I always think about the Pool when they played Pool Town in that Vase semi-final, and I think they came back late. I think Lee Kerr scored that day. Actually, he sort of might have scored like a free kick and late on, and they drew. And I remember there's sort of a bit of kind of who's this Paul Chow? He's a bit of a donkey kind of sort of vibe. I think the donkey word was used somewhere along the line, whether it was on a Pool Town fans forum or something. And then did he go and whack in 2 or 3 in the second leg?
So one of his, I don't know if you remember Paul Robinson, who played for Whitley in the finals as well. I asked Robbo about Chowie probably 4 or 5 years ago now. We were having a chat about that team, and he said he's the worst footballer he's ever seen. Which I thought was brilliant praise. Like, he's like, he couldn't do a lot of stuff, but what he could do, he did really well.
Yeah.
And he just had a habit of being in the right place at the right time. And I think, sadly, these days, where strikers aren't really, in terms of out-and-out number 9s, aren't really a thing now, are they? Let's be honest.
Not many front 2s either, is there? You don't really see that sort of those kind of old front 2s anymore.
Which is why I quite enjoy watching Leighton Campbell and playing a 2 with Mackenzie Sharp. It was interesting seeing, a kind of proper strike force instead of this 1 and then 2 out wide or whatever it may be. It was, it was refreshing.
We're all going a bit old man now with this, aren't we? Sort of bring that
all the time. All the time.
4-4-2.
We're going a bit Dean Saunders on Talk Sport and talking about press and things like that. But going back to the FA Cup, lots of other interesting ones. Obviously, probably one of the other standout sort of jumps out at people is Enfield against Enfield Town, which is a lot of backstory and history there, not just 2 teams. I think it was interesting that Enfield Town on their tweet said that we're off to Hertford to play, because there's obviously Enfield Town play in Enfield and Enfield don't. So lots to unpick there. Jersey Bulls against Worthing would be an interesting one as well.
Certainly will be
going over there. Worthing.
I think Worthing are the highest ranked team that Jersey Bulls have ever played. I think there was a stat I read this year. I saw this week. The Enfield one, as you say, Badders, is really notable. I'm speaking to Alex Salmon, the Enfield manager, in about an hour's time. And I think from a football front, he'll be absolutely relishing that. I mean, nice big crowd up there. TV cameras you'd expect, I think, and playing against the Step 2 team who are going well. So nice big local interest, and from a football point of view, he'll be relishing that one, I'm sure. Yeah,
I'd be surprised if the BBC didn't send their cameras there, but they didn't do Atherton LR against Atherton Cole. Although they did pick a brilliant one. They could argue afterwards that they picked a great one because they saw Tadley Cleaver.
Tadley Cleaver were fantastic, weren't they?
Yeah, which was a brilliant result for them.
Credit to Atherton, the Burnham Ravers as well. I mean, what a result that was for them. Beating their higher ranked neighbours, 5-1 or 2. Michael Clegg, the Colliery's manager, was not happy at all at the end of the game, and his quotes were pretty strong. But what a result for LR there!
I think that's, as we've sort of said before. You get these FA Cup results at this time of the year that kind of maybe the wider footballing public aren't seeing, but this is where really big sort of memories and stories are being written every single round, even at these stages. And there's going to be so many. There's going to be so many more to come. And it does sort of seem to step up now. Those step 3 ones are coming in.
I always think it's kind of this round where you start thinking, could this be it? Could this be the year we get to the first round? I know it's still a long way off. It's still 3 wins away, isn't it? But I just think it's now when you think, if we can get through this one and get a good draw, like all of a sudden, I remember it with Dunstan. I think it was this stage when they beat Chester, and that was like, what did they beat after that? Was it Earlham? Might be in Earlham, then Chester, and then they got Gateshead actually in the fourth qualifying round. And it was one of them where I think clubs maybe the ones that don't tend to get to the first round.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're sort of thinking now, well, you never know, if the draw goes our way.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think say this every time I'm on, just love the FA Cup.
It's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, one of the ones that really sprung out to me was Tor Point Athletic, right down in the south, in the southwest beautiful part of the world. They're playing at this stage for the first time. They've got a nice trip to Merthyr, which as you say, they'll remember for years and years to come. And Laverstock and Ford as well on the south coast, going to kind of Salisbury. Big game for them as well. So no, you're right. It's not necessarily about financial rewards at the moment. It's this is proper magic at the FA Cup at this stage. And there's a few teams next Saturday who are going to be absolutely relishing the opportunities that come their way.
Yeah, I think like Mark says there, it's kind of is this stage now. Do you want like a big step 2 club, or are you now thinking, actually, if we could get those winnable home ties that kind of no one can get through, and then suddenly you are dreaming of that first round. I mean, I've always said for the last few years the fourth round qualifying does feel like the first round these days with some of the national size of the National League clubs in there, but it is about getting to that first round, and we see it every year.
Well, someone at Blue Star, just as supporter after the game on Saturday when they beat Heaton Stannington, they said, I said straight away, who do you want next round? And it was like, we either want someone that's going to bring a massive travelling support so we fill this place out. Firstly, it was definitely a home game, but then it was, we want to either have someone here who's going to sell the whole place out, and I quote here, or someone really rubbish. So it was one of them where I'm like, right, okay, so see where you're coming from there. Could have put it slightly better, but okay.
One or the other. But this is you need that little bit of a luck of the draw, and that's the same when you to get to the third round as well for clubs as well. You kind of need those sort of those first and second round games that maybe, particularly second round game that kind of goes a little bit under the radar, and you can just kind of go and kind of try and go and actually win it and get to that third round. You need that little bit of luck. That's what I always find it interesting about the TV picks. We I bet we'll be debating them later in the competition, because they are, obviously I always feel like players definitely want something different to kind of what people think non-league club at home against the big sort of Premier League type, big football league club is what you want. Whereas a lot of the players, they just want to go and play they'd love to go away to somewhere. And I think we've seen non-league clubs upset clubs in the on the road and not always been on TV. Whereas maybe that's sort of changing a little bit now. We've sort of seen the last couple of years where we've seen those picks been made a little bit more. But
I think the perfect combination that I saw was at Blythe Spartans when they got to the third round and played Birmingham, because it was first round they got Altrincham at home, which was kind of winnable, even though there was 2 divisions difference between them. Altrincham were having a poor season. It got selected for the BBC Final Score programme, so there was still a bit of money coming in. Altrincham brought a massive support to Croft Park, and I think there was about 1,800 there that day. And then the reward for the win was Hartlepool away on a Friday night, live on Match of the Day, and went to a Hartlepool team who were sat bottom or second from bottom in League Two at the time, and obviously everyone knows what happened there. And then the reward was Birmingham City at home in the third round. And even though I'm fairly certain it was Stephen Turnbull described the tie as a bit of an anticlimax live on BBC when the draw was it was I mean, this is a Birmingham City side that had won the Carling Cup about 2-3 years earlier, and You had Nikola Zigic, who they paid £7 million for, and he was playing up front for them that day. And of course, Spartans went 2-0 up and probably should have won the game in the end. But
I remember that. Yeah, I do remember that.
Got beat 3-2. But that combination of playing Altrincham at home and then Hartlepool away was kind of the perfect balance of winnable tie, but also quite an eye-catching tie that you want in the first and second rounds, because there was still luck. I mean, there was luck in both games. The Altrincham one maybe less so because Spartans battered them. I think it was 4-1 that day, and it could have been more. And Hartlepool battered Spartans first half in that game, and then Spartans sort of stayed within one goal and then came out second half like a completely different team.
Yeah, I always remember Stephen Turnbull was just sort of, when Phil had his runs as well, and then he'd always talk about that goal being seen on Match of the Day, wouldn't he? And how many millions of people had seen his free kick against Hartlepool. It was a great one. I think we took, remember one, I can't remember, a couple of years later when Gateshead got through to the third round when they played West Brom.
It was the same year.
Yeah, and was that the same? Is that actually the same season that happened?
The funny story about that one is I used to host a TV program up here, and we had the two of them on, and which was a complete mistake, really. Thankfully, it wasn't live. You can probably see where it's going. But they had an argument between each other on air between which way would you rather go out the FA Cup? Would you rather go out the FA Cup going 2-0 up and then losing 3-2? Or would you rather go to a Premier League team and get beat 7-0? I think it was.
I think it was Gateshead. I think they lost 8. I think it was 8 in the end against West Brom.
But by all accounts,
they played them off the park the first half. They just played them off the park. They were like, it was like that Gateshead side that would just go and bop people, and they did it to West Brom, but didn't score. And then I think West Brom got a couple of goals before half time, and then Berahino scored 4, I think, in the end, and he sort of just all kind of unravelled a little bit. Right? Yeah.
But that was the argument between the two of them. Who went out the FA Cup the better way? And it was like, so Stephen Turnbull's going, well, at least we went 2-0 ahead. We didn't get embarrassed. And then Phil's going, yeah, but you thought you had hope of getting into the fourth round, and instead you've crumbled. And this went on for ages. But
it doesn't surprise me because we sent the FA Cup up there around. We had pictures of them in their Christmas jumpers in their house. They lived together at the time, didn't they? Or maybe I think they did, didn't they? And they have didn't they put gaffer tape down the middle of their house or something like that? And it was like, that's your side, that's your side. Because everything was like a competition. And I remember, I can't remember if it was Stephen who told me that they play like Xbox and things. And if one of them was losing, he'd run outside and they'd literally thrown controllers like sort of 3 or 4 gardens down and things like that. They're sort of both totally like bonkers. Yeah. It was one of the funniest sort of interviews we've ever had. This is like totally madness. What's going on?
All of it completely genuine.
Yeah.
Like genuine. The most competitive brothers I think I've ever seen. And the funny thing is, we're kind of the same player as well. Like, did kind of similar roles. But yeah, that was quite the argument to witness. Like, who went out the FA Cup the better way? And it was like, yeah, I'm not sure there's an argument to be had there, lads. But okay.
Yeah, there is something in sort of families in non-league when they're sort of together, and the sort of stories that they kind of come up. Think about the Cowley brothers, and obviously talking about FA Cup and sort of interviewing them, and the sort of a little bit different, but they were kind of that competitiveness sort of through their sort of childhood. And I remember speaking to the Grant brothers who played for Ascot in the Vars final a few years ago, and nephews of Martin Allen. Some of the stories had Martin Allen sort of like board games at Christmas and things, and how we sort of try and do everything to sort of win, and that's kind of Uncle Martin kind of taught them a lot about winning at all costs and all that sort of stuff. So it is again, it always sort of throws up in these sort of around cup competitions and FA Cups and Varses and things like that.
Well, the POLs in the Vars final between Hebden and Concert, like, one's a centre back, one's a striker, literally marking each other. And I'm fairly certain the first goal of the game was Amar going through on goal. And I think there's a lovely shot of Arjun trying to tackle him as he's having it shot and scoring. But it's amazing how many times non-league throws up, as you say, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it is weird, isn't it? And it always does seem to be. I guess the cup sort of add more to it, maybe, but it's it's always around sort of the cup competitions and things like that. It must be very strange sort of feeling playing against your brother, let alone sort of with him must be nice, but playing against him must be very, very strange. But yeah, lots of stories to write, and we'll look forward to that in the coming weeks. Obviously got lots of previews in this week's paper. What else have we got coming up, Couchy, in Sunday's NLP?
Tony Vincenzo's got a really nice interview with Richard Kone. Obviously, with his Queen's Park Rangers links. Richard, obviously, someone who's shot from the Essex Senior League to the Championship, brink of the Premier League in double quick time via Wycombe Wanderers, and that's a very extreme non-league story, but a real success story as well.
Straight up, it's an amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible, and so it's some really nice lines from him, and so that's definitely one to look out for as well.
Yeah, definitely that's to look out for. There'll be plenty more in there. Thank you very much for joining us, chaps. We really do appreciate it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate if you like and subscribe to the Non-League Goalmouth, and we'll catch you next time. Enjoy your weekend and hopefully plenty more goals.
Yeah. Bye-bye.